All right, Insplorion. Nice to have a nanotechnology company in front of me, so I don't need to explain nanotechnology to you. But we're using nanoparticles in a completely different way. We are a sensor technology company where we develop sensors for cleaner air to help and accelerate the transition to fossil-free energy and to support research in life science and clean tech. But one thing to think about when taking a new technology company to the market is, does this fit in the overall trends? And when doing this exercise, we were quite happy. When PricewaterhouseCoopers look at which are the dominating trends for a long time, the dominating global trends, 3 out of 5 are very relevant for us. The aging population and the shift in global power, yeah, that is also happening, but that we have the climate change, that we have the continuing urbanization, people moving into the cities, and that we have the rise of technology are all enabling factors for need for new sensors and new sensor technologies. I'm going to come back to this. Detta has been helpful in pointing out that that is a real problem. Now the rest of the world also knows. But it's not only that the planet gets sick and that we have this rising temperature when we burn fossil fuels. We also make the air polluted, where we get particles and NO2, which are harmful for us. We see it to some extent here in Europe, but it's also a lot worse in Asia. In total, over 4 million dies from bad air quality. That's a heck of a lot more people than the corona, just saying. But to help with these big problems, we as a small technology company try to do our part. When it comes to air quality, to make the right decisions on how to fix them, you need to measure and to do it a lot better than you can today. And especially be able to do it at a lot more places. Basically, having one sensor on each streetlight makes it a lot easier to decide which street should be focused on and so on. But it's also with the new technologies that comes up to help and solve the climate change with hydrogen economy and hydrogen cars, as well as with battery cars, these technologies needs to be optimized. And to optimize, you need to measure before you can optimize. And when you measure, you need new sensors. That's where we come in, to help out in making batteries more efficient and to make the hydrogen economy safe. And it can look quite diverse, air quality, battery, hydrogen, and then also research systems. It looks very spread out. And it is when you look from the outside. But when we look from the inside, it's the same. It's all based on the same technology that has been developed at Chalmers University about 20 years ago, that became patent and Insplorion as a company 10 years ago. And this same sensor technology platform, where we have patents, three patent families, are the base for all of our applications. And roughly what it does, what is this technology? It's basically using nanoparticles. They have a natural phenomena to enhance light. And we have been able to take control of this. So instead of only using it to make cool colors for church windows, which it has been used as, it's to increase an optical signal. Doing this, we can decrease the rest of the complexity in the sensor. So that thanks to that, we have this nanoparticles that gives a stronger measurement signal. We get high sensitivity. And then the rest of the system, the light source can be a very simple LED, and the detector can be cheap. So thanks to the nanoparticles, we get a sensor that is small, robust, yet sensitive. And that is how we can have a sensor that we can make cost-effective and get out at many places. The other part to make it selective is that we can coat our nanoparticles with different coatings. So the only difference between what we put in the battery, what we put looking at air quality, is the coating. Same nanoparticles, different coating, and then we get the selectivity. So we have a platform base that gives high sensitivity, which is one of the parts that you want when you make the sensors, and then we can coat it differently so that we can direct it to different chemical changes. A little bit more about air quality. You can today take your phone and look at your app and see that, yeah, the air quality here in Beijing is really crappy today too. But it's all based on the measurement stations that you have today. But it's about 20 of them that covers the whole city. So it only gives a really big average. And the decision that you take from the city then needs to be, okay, yeah, let's close down the industry all around for 3 days. What is driving and what is demand is to get more and more, but still good sensitivity sensors out, so that you can start to make decisions that it's only this part of the city where we need to close down our factories, or it's on this street where we really have the big problem. That's where we can change the fee for driving. So when building the cities a lot smarter, we need more sensors, and we need them more spread out. And that's where we came in, and where we very recently started to enter a commercial phase, where we have our first installation together with Mölndal Stad and a company called Leading Light. Leading Light is a good first collaboration, since they already have a system of street lights that is connected to the grid. So we just needed to basically plug in our sensor, and then they could start to sell their street lights not only as a lighting system, but also as an environmental monitoring device. We've also started to set up a renting deal together with the Swedish Institute of Environment, IVL, where we are offering our sensors to try out for the Swedish municipalities. But the Nordic market and Sweden is, of course, only the start. That's where we set up the reference sales, just to prove the technology. Then, of course, it's the rest of Europe, both France and England. Britain has pretty big problems with their air quality, but then it's of course in Asia where we see the biggest demand. And it's a big demand. It's in the range of $4 billion that is invested in monitoring air quality on a yearly basis now, growing fast due to that the legislation is picking up. What has been fun is that we also start to see interest from the building and ventilation industry. Previously, you could say that, yeah, we just need to flush out the bad air from the indoor, and then we bring in the fresh from the outside. But since the outside air isn't fresh all the time, that is also needed to be monitored. Batteries, you heard a lot about already today. And so you know that they are needed to make the transition to fossil-free energy. But they are too expensive. There is risk related to them. They can burn quite a bit. But one way to help this out is to make them more efficient, and to also monitor them better so that they are safer. And that is basically where we come in. It's not an idea that we came up with ourselves. We basically took our, back then, nitrogen dioxide sensor to Volvo and said, hey, we've got a really cool technology here. It was before the Dieselgate scandal, and they knew they had a problem, but they started to point out that our big frustration is that we're getting bigger and more batteries in the cars, and we can optimize them. And they basically told us about that the batteries used in cars today, they are charged up when it's 100%, it's really 80% or 75% to be on the safe side. And when we load them out, it's quite a bit still there. But since we can't measure exactly what it is, we need to have these big safety margins. So any sensor that can give a little bit more information what the battery really is like, that could help optimize a lot. And that's where we saw a unique opportunity for us, that our technology, it can be miniaturized, it can be put on a very thin fiber and be inside the battery, and in that way provide information about the chemical changes that sets the real limitations for the battery, and bring it up to the battery management system so that you can operate it a lot more efficient. It's not the product that we have on the market. It's still in the development phase. We are today driving it mainly in collaboration projects, and in that way getting access to the battery industry. In our main project, we are working with a smaller battery firm called AGM Batteries, so that we can build a whole system together. But it's really fun that we late last year also got funded within a really big project called 3Believe. It's in the range of 100 million Swedish crowns funded project by the European Union, where the whole battery industry in Europe have come together to build the next generation battery, where we are the one providing the sensors. And the numbers, of course, becomes humongous. It's in the range of $35 billion for the lithium-ion batteries. But it's also interesting to see that the system that measures today and the sensors, it's already a pretty big number, even though it's the old measuring voltammetric and column counting and temperature. In the range of $4.5 billion in a few years from now, when estimated. Hydrogen is something that our researcher at Chalmers, one of our founding members, has been knocking on our door for quite some time, saying that shouldn't we do something about the hydrogen now? I have done this research not only the 10 years before we started Insplorion, but have continued, and the technology becomes better and better all the time. And we have basically said, yeah, but show us the application, show us the money. We don't see the market yet. But the hydrogen economy has started to pick up quite a lot of interest during last year. So we started to look a little bit more at it, and got in contact and learned quite a bit that, yeah, when it's coming, one of the concerns why it's not coming is the safety. Even though hydrogen might not be as dangerous as gasoline, it's flammable and so on, it's still a lot safety concerns about it. So solving the sensing to be able to set the safety was something that we started to see is a big demand. And then in combination that our researchers were able to show that they could make the fastest hydrogen sensor with our technology in the world, in combination with the increasing interest from the market, then we basically had to do something about it, and were able to knock on the door with PowerCell, who is making fuel cells. And together with them, we now have started a project where we both develop our sensor as a hydrogen sensor for safety, but also to operate the fuel cells in a more effective way. Something that we have done since we started is using this same technology as research instrument and selling it as a research instrument. As good entrepreneurs, only development is not fun. So having the first sales already 1 year after we founded the company is something that we are proud of. And we are selling high-priced instruments to academic market and have done so continuously with these type of product lines that you can use different products depending on you do life science research or if you do solar cell research. It's fun in that way that when selling to academia, you go globally directly. So we ensure that we have our eyes on the global market all the time. And we also, except for the instrument sales, we get a continuous revenue from consumables, basically our sensors. But what is really useful having this line of research instrument is that we don't need to do research. We can ensure that our technology is in the front line, but it's others that do the research for us. So we have the collaboration with our founding group and are growing that, for instance, with Uppsala University when it comes to the battery research. So that we as a company can focus on market development and product development and ensuring that we take the right IP to secure the bigger market when it comes to our volume sensor sales, where it's also going to be other collaborations that do the large-scale production, distribution, and licensing. And that's also how we see how we evolve our technology in 2 steps, basically. We start with the niche applications and niche actors, and from there work with other actors to ensure that we also get the volume. But establish with niche actors in order and then to get high volume with bigger actors. As a team, we are now 12 people, have grown a bit lately, where we have a good balance between market and sales and still keep our technology in the house. We are listed at the Spotlight stock market, had a positive direction before Corona. We are about 2,000 shareholders and are currently quite well funded since funding round before previous summer. And that's what I basically wanted to talk about. We are a technology platform company with air quality battery and hydrogen as our volume, where we have the technology already proven as a research instrument, and where we have this technology that is small, robust, sensitive, and scalable. That's it. Now we hope for questions, right?
Thank you very much, Patrik. Please join me here. Let's see what we have gotten kind of questions from the app. How do you look at the development of your competition, the situation of your competitors, in the, I'm directly translating this, when you observe that more and more companies within sensor technology are entering the market? So competition in view of the more and more companies entering this segment.
Yes. In general, we like competition because it shows that it's a market. But we monitor it closely, and we have quite a few opportunities with coming with a new disruptive technology. It's quite a few different directions where we go. So we are, even though we now have 3 areas where we work, we have been very picky about them. The reason for going into nitrogen dioxide and air quality is that existing technologies and where they were heading couldn't solve it, but it fitted us. So we basically, since it is a really open market, it's room for niches to expand in, and we pick the niches where we can give most and where we solve a problem and where our technology fits. But we need to keep a careful eye on it all the time, and having more than one application is one of the ways that we ensure
making you less vulnerable, of course.
Exactly.
Let's see if we have any questions in the room. Okay. I'm curious, you mentioned the sensors in the batteries. How would that affect the recyclability of the batteries?
Basically,
they're hard as it is to recycle,
yes.
But if you put a sensor in, how does that affect?
One of the big problems in the recycling is that you have a problem to judge, should I send this battery to second application, often going from automotive to energy storage? Should I recycle it directly and doing that type of judgment? It is, with current sensor technologies, you can't really make that judgment in a good way. So helping recyclability is one of the long-term advantages with our sensor technology.
And when you disassemble the batteries to recycle the parts, if you do that,
then it's a very thin fiber that you just drag out.
So it's not mixed material. No. Okay, great. Okay. Well, thank you very much, Patrik Dahlqvist, and the best of luck.
Thank you.